Hi everyone. So moving on from my last video, I could have gone into a lot more depth in it. I'm sorry. Could have gone into it in a lot more depth, but the video is already quite long anyway. So hence this follow-up video. So in terms of masculinity, if you are gay and you are having issues around your masculinity, don't think that you're alone because you don't have to be gay to be having masculine issues, basically. Um, any kind of bullying around, any kind of bullying really, the first thing that your average male is going to reflect on if he does, if he's not equipped to actually handle the situation, is thinking that, well, look, I'm a guy, and it's an expectation, an understanding that guys are able to handle themselves, given any situation, irrespective of whether they've been equipped to stand on their own 2 feet or not. And obviously, that's just not the case. That's not realistic. And the fallout from any kind of bullying is going to be low self-esteem and all manner of psychological effects. Obviously, I'm not a health professional, etc. But having been on the receiving end of bullying throughout my life, I got a good understanding basically of what the effects and the consequences of that are on the sufferer. So, we'll delve into my masculinity a bit first of all. And apparently, when I was a baby, a lot of guys mistook me as being a girl. That's why I got no memory of it. But yeah, and it makes me wonder actually, on reflection, did that have any kind of effect on me? I don't know. But I thought I'd mention it anyway. Um, so yeah, growing up, I always had long hair. I think I had a crew cut once. I think during my time in infants. Um, Other than that, yeah, my hair's always been long. I remember actually being on a school trip in Weston-super-Mare, and I was sitting in the canteen waiting for my food, and someone commented, "Oh, that girl there needs dinner," or something like that, and it was quite funny looking back, but yeah, and I think the way I was dressed, I had some kind of zip-up blouse on as well, and it wasn't particularly masculine. If I look back and be honest about it. Uh, so yeah, I know I went through a lot of bullying, and a lot of it centered around being gay. And of course, there's no follow up to that. It's just this comment, "Oh, you're gay," or something or other than that. All the focus is on the word gay. And you sort of like you kind of conjure up all kind of thoughts yourself, and you become your worst enemy basically. And of course, the whole purpose of it is to sort of like make you feel bad about yourself, amongst other things. That's the consequences of it. You feel unaccepted, you feel less than, you feel like dirt. And then there's all the remarks in about gay, and it wasn't me back in the 80s. I grew up with all that, and it was considered the low of the low. Lower than murder and all the rest of it. And the funny thing is, I mean, like in today's world, there seems to be some kind of glamour around murder for some reason, but that's another story, I suppose. Um, So, yeah, masculinity, moving on. So, yeah, so I don't know, I didn't really overthink it. I had long hair. To be honest with you, the long hair made me quite warm in the summer. And it was like hanging over my ears, I think, as well, if I think back, if I remember correctly. And yeah, it wasn't even the most pleasant to endure, really. Um, so that was that. And then I say, masculinity, I don't know. I mean, I used to interact with the boys in school. It was an all-boys school, and we sort of like grappled in during playtime and all the rest of it. and I'd be treated the same as everybody else, and I treated them the same way that I would treat anybody else. And there was acceptance back then, but then it sort of like moved on from there. I don't know exactly what happened. I don't remember doing anything to sort of like make people think that I was gay or anything. I was very much sort of like within myself, kept myself to myself. Um, but I don't know, I was quite popular at the point, and I was involved with an outside of school activity, and there was people from within the school, within my year, who would also attend that. We call it society, so I might have sort of like gained popularity through like peer influence in that respect, but it quickly dropped off within a year, 2 years. And then I was finding myself, having people calling me gay and all the rest of it. I found myself sort of like more isolated, spending more time on my own, and probably just becoming very unhappy in the process. But I wasn't particularly self-conscious, and I always used to give as good as I got anyway. So that was that. So that's my senior school. I moved from one place in the country to another when I was 15. So we're talking a different school now. And then there's all this talk about gay and all the rest of it that I endured before. And I thought, well, if I'm interacting with girls, because now I'm in a mixed school, people won't call me gay. And I found talking to the girls in my class, in my year, no problem at all. And they were very comfortable talking to me and all the rest of it. And it sort of like gave an impression, I suppose, that I was straight. And then I wasn't getting all this gay bashing and all the rest of it, verbal gay bashing. And I was in a better place because of that. And obviously, as I said in my last video, I'm attracted to overweight guys. Back in the 80s, they were few and far between. Any kind of inklings or whatever, we just quickly dismissed. So I just assumed I was straight and same as everybody else, and I was being treated that way, and it was all sort of like good at the time. But then I left there. I did a year of ITS, and then it became obvious to me that yes, I am gay. And then I suppose because of that, I focused more on my masculinity. And I say that there's all the bullying and the stigma. That's the word I was looking for. There's all the stigma, all the stereotype imaging, and suddenly. As I say before, I just shrugged it off. I always used to give as good as I got, best I could, despite being outnumbered. But then when it's there blatantly in your face, then it's no longer a case of, oh no, that doesn't apply to me, because it clearly does, and it's sort of all there under your nose, in your face, and you got to process it and deal with it. So say I was unemployed at this point, and there's a lot to deal with. There's the masculine side of things. I didn't think of myself so much not masculine. I don't know, because obviously I sort of like reflecting on the bullying at this point as well, and I'm thinking, all the time I went out of my way to sort of like be nice to people, and in response I got all this gay bullying and remarks made against me, and I think that's just not fair. So I reflected on the bullying, and there was an element of this long hair, etc. But it wasn't excessive, but it wasn't exactly what's the word I'm looking for? Wasn't very complimented of me, put it that way. Anyway, so one of the first things I did after, I'll go through the process of working through this first of all. So it's a lot to deal with. You got all the stigma, and then you got to think about the stigma, and is there any truth in it? And what does being gay mean to me? And at the end of the day, I'm going through all the stigma, all the stereotyped images that are sort of like pumped into my brain. And I'm thinking, none of this applies to me at all. This doesn't define or relate to me one iota. And I'm thinking, all the remarks made down the years, just where's the intelligence? And I say none of it was substantiated. It's just the word gay pointed at you as if it means something, and it doesn't. And at the end of the day, it just comes to the point that you're just attracted to your own sex. That's all it is. But then, because of all the stigma, the stereotype images, and all the rest of it, and because you no longer can sort of like shrug this label of gay in this image that's in your head about gay people, you got to deal with it. So I went through a self-analysis. None of it related to me. Yes, okay, I'm attracted to my own sex. That is all it is. That's all it is. And yet it's made out to be something else, like with a load of stigma and stereotyped images attached to it. Doesn't make sense to me, really, on reflection. So anyway, I went through all this. I worked out what it means to me. I worked out, okay, well, if I was straight, I'd be there trying to form meaningful, rewarding relationships with the opposite sex. The only difference here is that I'm attracted to my own sex, and that's the way forward for me. Just I'm just saying me. I haven't changed, and the way forward is okay. Instead of trying to form relationships with the opposite sex, I form relationships with my own sex, and to be honest, it was a relief. It was also exciting because I got the prospect now of actually finding someone of my own sex who I can relate to on an emotional level, on the mutual understanding level, and for the opportunity of forming a meaningful relationship. So it was a relief in one respect, and also exciting on another. I did look at my self-image at this point. I came out to my mother. As I say, it was a process, a downward spiral process, really. And obviously, you can see how I am today. But back then, it was a downward spiral. I was at a crossroads, basically. I was causing issues with my family because I was isolating at the time I would interact with the families at mealtime. So I was at a crossroads. I came out to my mother. My mother was fantastic. She even told the rest of the family for me. I didn't even have to come out to the rest of the family. It was all done for me. And things moved forward really quickly then. I had call it a crew cut, whatever you want to call it. And it sort of transformed my image. That alone sort of transformed my image no end, basically. And I've been quite fortunate in life. I've had loads of rewarding relationships. I met my first partner when I was 20, I believe. And we only known each other for a couple of months, and I was already moved in with him. And at the time, I was shy. I had no self-confidence, and he totally changed my life around. Basically, totally different person now, and 90% of that is credit to him. So yeah, great. Unfortunately, he's no longer with us. I lost him to heart disease the very year that I was hoping to marry him, or for us to get married. But there you go. Things don't always pan out the way that you hope. So, what was the self? So I'm trying to think back to the actual title of this video. I sort of like went off on a tangent there. So I say I thought I went off on a tangent there, but I think it's all pretty much relevant actually, looking at it and on reflection. Relationships can really be the making of us, and I really can't stress enough, if you have the opportunity of finding someone who you can be on the same wavelength as, the actual benefits of forming a rewarding, understanding and loving relationship, you shouldn't dismiss it, because it's worth its weight in gold. If you're not that fortunate, or not that fortunate yet, there's always things that you can work on yourself in regards to self-acceptance, being comfortable with your masculinity. I mean, as I say, masculinity doesn't apply to everyone anyway. There are many camp guys out there who know how to work themselves and get the best out of their male counterparts. So, masculinity isn't the be-all and end-all anyway. And as I say, it doesn't just apply to gay people. It's not just gay people who have issues with masculinity. There are many straight guys who have issues as well. It's basically about being comfortable in your own skin, really. If you're not, obviously maybe a trip to the doctor, or phone call to your doctor, etc., could be a good way forward. Or just, if you think that you can deal with it yourself, just think to yourself, what do I need to do to be comfortable in myself and my masculinity, and then just take whatever steps needed to get there. So hopefully this video has been of help. If it has and you want to leave comments, please do so, and thank you for watching.